Hey guys, Chairman here, back with another episode of Play by Play. This is backed by popular demand. You guys all really liked the first episode, which is really exciting for me as a content creator. I love making things that people enjoy watching. So here we are, second episode, very exciting. And today we will be demonstrating the deck profile that I showed on this channel just a few days ago. Whoops, messed up that fan. It is the Luna Kanata budget Hololive deck that features one double rare and everything else is basically in TDs or very easy to get. You guys let me know that this Bay was actually the most expensive card, but honestly you don't even need this Bay. You can just play the Mel, or you can just wait for Hololive set 2 where we get way better cards than this Bay, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, anyways, so that's going to be the deck we're testing now. And I just want to do this deck specifically because I introduced it as like a budget beginner friendly deck, so I want to show just how easy it is to play. Honestly, it's like very beginner friendly, and then if you're a beginner trying to pick up this deck for the first time, hopefully this will give you a good idea of how to play the deck and how to sequence kind of going from level 0 to level 1 to level 2 and then preparing for the end game, which I do agree that while the level 3 in this deck, because there's just so many different level 3s, it might be hard to kind of like figure out which ones to prioritize. I think learning to play with options is always something that's very valuable, even for beginners, right? I think that just helps you get into the habit of like making good choices and expressing your skill, because that's really where the fun of the game is. Like nobody really, like you won't have fun making the same play game after game. You'll have a lot more fun like experimenting and making options and trying things out and then seeing if they work or not. Like if they don't work, that's still kind of fun. You know, you tried something new or something different. And so that's what we're gonna do today. Hopefully this will help you guys figure out how to play the deck. And as always, for the deck we're using for triggers, it's going to be Review Starlight, my trusty Pan Store build, because I think, yeah, once again, I explained in the last episode, but it has a really nice balance of soul triggers and not soul triggers. So I think it emulates normal damage that we take pretty well. Alright, give that a little cut, put it over here, and then let us take out our going first, going second cards. Looks like today we'll be using Gochiusa. Just flip them over, do a quick shuffle. I have no idea which one's going to be which, and we are going to flip. We are going second today. So, going second. Put it right here. Alright, so going second with the Kanata Luna deck. Let's draw an opening hand of 5. We draw... Okay, perfect. Drawing 2 aquas. That's really good. Obviously, we want to see these aquas early. We only really need to see one, but having the second one is not necessarily bad. Not necessarily good either. So obviously, in this hand, we definitely discard these 3 cards. And I'm thinking of whether or not we want to discard the second aqua here. I'm going to keep the second aqua just because our opponent is going to play 1 card and we can play 2 aquas, and then that gives us the option of using both aqua effects, which is kind of nice. But I think there's an argument to discarding the aqua if you're trying to dig for something specific. Honestly, with an aqua in hand, I'm not too worried about drawing anything specific because aqua will be giving us a lot of advantage. So let's draw 3 more cards. Nice, drew the Luna Climax. That's going to be really nice for us here. And obviously, since our opponent is going first, they're going to play a character and they're going to attack, triggering a soul trigger, so dealing 3 damage to us. 1, 2, 3. We take the 3 damage, not a big deal. Put it to the bottom. Alright, and then it's our turn. Draw for turn. Luna 1-0. Very good, very good. You love to see it. We're going to clock the flare here because we don't need her until the very late end of the game. Basically, we never keep cards like this. We can always salvage them off of the Kanata combo. But keeping the Kanata is important because we do need a large number of these even at level 2. So you can hold on to this as early as level 0 if the rest of your hand is good. So draw 2 cards. It's going to be the Matsuri and another Luna Climax. Now, that's not the best, but is also not the worst. We're just going to go ahead and play 2 aquas here. 1 in the center, 1 on the side. And generally speaking, you want to direct with these 2. Or direct with 1 on the side, so like if they have something here you don't want to be crashing in, you want both your aquas to be living. So let's go with the 1 on the side. Direct attack here for a 1, 2, 2 damage. Get that soul. Front here, if there's a character, or otherwise it's a direct for a 3. And that's pretty good here. Alright, now our opponent is probably, let's just say they're probably not, actually let's say they're level 1 here. Generally speaking, if I trigger a soul trigger on any of these attacks, I will assume that my opponent gets hit to level 1. If I trigger 2 empty, like not soul triggers, I'll assume my opponent is still a turn at level 0. So assuming our opponent is at level 1, they're going to be playing a climax, and of course we can arbitrarily decide what their attack order is. I'm just going to go left to right here. So first attack is going to be 1, 2, 3 with the trigger, 3 damage. So go 1, 2, and 3. It's pretty safe to assume your opponent will be at level 1 just because they can use something like a Riki to level themselves up. So if you attack twice or 2 or 3 times going second, and if you trigger, it's like very likely that your opponent does level up to level 1. Alright, trigger for here, it's going to be 1, 2. 1, 2, take the 2. Haven't seen any climaxes yet, that's kind of unfortunate. And this is going to be also for 1, 2. 1 and 2. Wow, we just took the 7 damage. That's a little unfortunate, but nothing you can do about that. Honestly, this deck does a pretty good job of coming from behind, just because the Kanata can stabilize us very well here. Now we are going to resolve at least one of these aquas because we don't really have anything good going on for our next turn, but we do run a risk of checking climaxes here because we only have 2 in our hand and none in our waiting room. So generally speaking here, I will do 1 aqua and then we'll see if that's a good idea to do the second one. So send the aqua to waiting room, pay 1, send the aqua to the bottom of our deck, or not our deck, bottom of our clock, reveal the next 2. Oof, we miss on that one, and oh, that's bad. Okay, that was what I was afraid of. But you still have to kind of go for it at this point because, like, you know, our hand's really bad. We are going to do the second one now because we really do need cards in our hand, and wow, that was rough. Alright, send the second aqua to the bottom of our clock. Please, let's not miss this time. We hit the Coco, very good. And when it rains, it pours. That is really bad. Okay, add this to our hand. You know, sometimes it happens. What can I say? Alright, draw for turn. Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. Okay, we are actually going to have to level here though. That's really nice though. Having the 2 Lunas here is pretty good. Actually, do we have to level? I'm wondering. Maybe we don't. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, actually we have only 3 climaxes left. We kind of do need a clock. Alright, I'm gonna clock this. Let's level up. We can either level blue or yellow. Let's just get the blue out of the way. And we can get yellow later anyways, no big deal. Okay, draw 2 more cards. Alright, Kanata is good, and the level 0 hat Kanata, that's actually pretty good too. Alright, we're going to play the Coco to the back row. We're going to play 2 copies of our Luna, and those are definitely going to get some reverses. And the question here now is, do I want to use this hat to get anything for my waiting room? And it doesn't really seem like there's anything particularly good that I want for my waiting room. We do have the Iroha that we could potentially get, but it doesn't seem that worth it. So what we're going to do is we're actually just going to play the hat onto the board, and we are not going to use the effect. We're just going to use this as an attacker to get some stock. And then of course we already have another hat in our waiting room we can salvage off of the Luna, which is honestly all that we really need here. So we're going to play the Luna here and get ourselves a stock the aqua here because we already have blue and green, so either the blue or green from waiting room would have been a good stock. So either the aqua or the Aki is fine. And we're just going to go into attacks here. So front here for 1, 2. And then on this front attack, so the first one, we have to decide whether or not we're going to use the climax combo once or twice. So if we send the climax for the climax combo here, it means that on the second Luna, we can't use it again. And if we don't use it, if we just send the climax here, that means we're going to end our turn with 5 hand, which is not really that much hand. It might be a little bit too few cards, honestly, especially since we don't have any plussing triggers. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm actually going to front. We're going to pay 1. And by paying 1, we're going to give the effects to herself and this other Luna. And then on this Luna's attack, we can sack this to get an additional salvage because we do want a lot of cards in our hand. So 1, 2, trigger here for the 2. And this one is going to go ahead and salvage 1 character. Obviously, you only want to do this if you can guarantee a reverse on this Luna, but since our opponent is still like low level 1, this is probably guaranteed. So second one, sack the climax, and we'll give it to this one and the Kanata. Now we're not going to pretend like this Kanata is going to get a reverse But you know, in a situation where this Kanata is able to get a reverse, we would be able to get another card. So this can be for a 1, 2, 2, and this one can salvage 2 cards. So let's go ahead and salvage 2 here. Let's get one of the 2/1 counters. I think that's going to be really good. And we do want to get the other climax, so let's get the Koyori climax swap, so we can swap the Lunar climax in our hand for the Kanata climax the following turn. And then the last attack, so we can either choose to front here or side here. Let's see here. We have 1 climax in hand, 4 climaxes in waiting room, only 3 left in deck. We don't really want to take too much damage here. I'm going to go ahead and side because I want to keep this card alive. And even though we aren't doing that much damage, we did play a climax, so it is siding for 2 - 1 probably. And if we trigger, it's going to be a lot. So I think siding here is just a generally better idea because we don't want to level up to 3. Like the best thing that can happen for us going forward is we stay at level 2. So I think siding just makes it easier for us to stay at level 2. So side attack here. And of course we trigger, so that means that the side was going to be for 4 minus probably 1. So still side for 3, really good number here. Alright, so on that end, our opponent's going to attack. So these are only 6/5 right now, and so I'm just going to assume that they're all going to die, because 6/5 is not that big. If it's 7/5, like if I had 2 brainstormers in the back row, you could technically let one of these live, because 7/5 is a pretty big number. It's pretty hard for a player to field like something to kill like a 7/5 in every lane. But we'll pretend that they don't have a climax this turn to play. And honestly, even if they do play a climax, I don't know if this is this is probably a good time to play a climax if they can't afford it. But let's just, for the sake of argument, let's just pretend they don't have a climax to play and just attack normally here. So first swing is going to be for 1 damage. Cancel. Okay. Second swing is going to be for another 1 damage. 1 damage, and then the last swing is going to be for a door, so that's 1 damage. Alright, so we take 2. And of course, if they, did play a climax, if you want to simulate them like rushing you, then yeah, just add the souls. But otherwise, so let's just pretend that they did that, and then we're here to go. So this kind of gives us the opportunity to stabilize here a little bit in this practice game. The next turn, they're going to be playing a climax, so we're going to have to get ready for that. Alright, draw for turn. It's the wstcg counter. Not going to do much for us right here. We're going to clock it for sure. We really just need cards in our hand at this point. Draw 2. This is not bad at all. So let's start off. First thing first, we're going to play the Koyori because we're definitely going to need to swap the climax into the Kanata climax. And now we can figure out kind of how many Kanatas we can get off. So we have 2 Kanatas in our hand and one of the changers. And then so we can use the 2 of these Kanatas to get into another of the changers, and then we can play the 2 Kanatas. So we're going to play one of the Kanatas, and this is just going to stay on the board to maintain board condition, because we do need a full field in order to resolve our Kanata combo. We're going to play a second helmet Kanata, and we're going to use the effect. So not the on-play effect, even though we have a 3/2 Kanata in our waiting room. We already have 2 in our hand. We can't get more than 2 changes this turn, so there's really no point. So we're going to use the send to waiting room effect. We do have 2 Kanatas in here, right? We do have one here. Always make sure to check you have the target in your waiting room before you do anything stupid. Alright, so send this. Put 1 card from your hand to the waiting room and put this from the field to the waiting room to salvage the 2/1 Kanata to the hand. And then now we're going to, one at a time, we're going to play the 2/1 Kanatas to the board. And these will be changed into the 3/2 Kanatas from our hand. Now, last thing that I want to do before we attack. You guys, don't be worried that I put the Koyori in the back row. That's just temporary. I know what I'm doing. So Koyori is in the center slot, so it gets the +1 soul here, which is really good. And also we can keep the Kanata in the back row so that the next turn we can use the effect to get anything we want from our waiting room. Alright, we're going to start off playing the climax. Now you actually have a choice here. You can either stock soul right now, or you can change right now. And depending on how you order it, the cards will have different soul values. So I'll just demonstrate a 1-in-1 change so you guys can understand how this works. So currently, these have 1 soul, this one has 2 soul. So I'm going to change one of the Kanatas first. We're going to change. And then now the on-play effect of this Kanata activates, but we can do that later. We don't have to do that right now. I'm going to next use the stock soul effect. And so we're going to choose a valid target, level 1 or lower, put into stock. Now all my characters get 1 soul. So now this has 3 soul, this also has 3 soul, and this Kanata has 2 soul. Now I'm going to use the change of this Kanata because this is all the same timing. We're going to change to the Kanata in our hand, and this Kanata only has 2 soul, while this Kanata has 3 soul, because this Kanata did not see the stock soul putting the card from our waiting room to stock. So this actually has less soul than this card, and this is really useful for like soul manipulation and stuff like that. For example, if this Kanata is directing, then we want her to have less soul so that our opponent doesn't cancel on like a direct for like 5. Whereas if this Kanata is fronting, then we actually want her to have the 3 soul so that she fronts for 3 instead of just fronting for 2, depending on how compressed our opponent is. Alright, last thing before we forget, both of these Kanatas were played from hand this turn, and so since it's the same timing, we're going to go ahead and heal 2 cards from our field to the waiting room. And then we enter attack step. Attack step, Kanata activates since we have a full board. Both of these can choose 2 characters, Hololive characters from our waiting room, and either add them to hand or stock them. Now since I don't have any cards on our hand, we're definitely going to add cards to our hand. So I'm going to add a 2-1 wstcg counter here, because we're still early level 2 and we don't want to lose to like our opponent's early play. We're definitely going to add a 2-1 Kanata counter here, just as an additional protection for our Kanata lane. We're going to actually add a level 0 Coco here, just because our Kanatas aren't very big right now, and on the following turn we do want to be able to play the second Coco to back row, and so to give the Kanatas an additional 1k power, and then also to have 2 Brainstormers, which I think is really good. And then for the last card, we are going to go ahead. And so last card, you could actually add either an extra 2-1 counter, or you can add the Helmet Kanata. In this specific scenario, I think in this specific scenario, I'm going to go ahead and add the 2-1 counter. Because my hand is really low, I can't really afford to use the Kanata effect. Because my hand is very low. So I think having the extra 2-1 counter is probably just going to be better in terms of being able to protect our lanes. If I was like full hand, I would definitely add the Kanata, because the Kanata basically allows my hand to become anything I want from my waiting room. So moving forward, let's just go into the attacks, see what we trigger. Nothing on this one. What about this one? Nothing on this one. So that's pretty good, because these are the 3 soul attackers, so we don't really want to trigger too much extra. This one has 2 soul, and we trigger for the 4. So yeah, that's a lot of damage. Alright, now on our opponent's turn, they're going to play a climax this turn. So everything is going to have an increased soul output. And because they're level 2, let's say that they actually have an early play that they're playing. So they're going to attack with an early play, and that's going to have an additional soul. And let's just, for the sake of ease, we'll say the additional soul is in the middle here. Or actually, let's say the soul is right here, because they would probably attack the early play with, attack one of our Kanatas with one of their early plays. Okay, and let's just say that both of our Kanatas will die this turn, unless we do something about it. So first, let's do this Kanata. It's probably going to be some kind of bomb, so like a bomb deck bomb or something. Obviously, you know, if they attack with their bomb deck bomb first, and they have an early play here, you can always use the wstcg counter to kill the early play, because they misplayed there. But let's just pretend that that doesn't happen or something. So anyway, this is going to be for 2 damage. 1, 2. We'll take that. Alright, second swing. This one's going to be for 2. 1, 2. We'll take that. And then last attack here is going to be for the extra damage. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3. Trigger for 4. And on this one, we are going to protect it with our counter here. So the Kanata is going to be at 14 power. And by using the counter here, we do pay out the climax, so that the climax does go into our refresh, which is really nice. So this is going to be 4, 4. 1, 2. Do we even have climaxes left? I don't think we do. 3 and 4. We did not have any climaxes left. Ouch. Yeah, I guess we were all out. Kind of crazy. A little unfortunate here. So the climax, so damage still stays in our resolution zone as we refresh, because refresh is an interrupt rule timing. Yeah, interrupt rule action. So the refresh happens immediately, and we will take the refresh penalty immediately upon finishing the refresh. Go ahead and cut. Take the refresh penalty. Top card goes into clock, and then we proceed to take the rest of the damage. So do this one. We don't have yellow. Ouch. We do have yellow coming in from the top, but we don't have yellow currently, which is kind of unfortunate here. Yeah, I was hoping we would get some yellow from like an extra Coco Brainstorm, but I guess that didn't really happen. Alright, and we take the 4 damage. Unfortunate. Oh, that is very painful. Okay, put this to the bottom. These 2 die. This Kanata stays alive. Alright, next turn. Draw for turn. Oh, wow. We just straight up draw into the combo. That's actually pretty good. We can choose to not clock here and try to stabilize. So that's what I'm actually going to do. I'm going to not clock here, and I'm going to try my best to stabilize from this position. So what we're going to do here is we're going to play the 2-1 event from our hand. We're going to brainstorm. And we're really hoping to hit one of these brainstorms. As long as we hit one of these brainstorms, we should be good to go here. So let's try this out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Nice, we draw 2 from this brainstorm, pretty good. We do actually need to draw into a playable character. That's not a playable character. That is a playable character, pretty good. We are out a bunch of climaxes now though. That's a little unfortunate, but we do have a playable character, which is honestly all that matters. Let's just brainstorm to mill more and also see what else is, just to mill more and get out of this deck, because I think we are out a lot of characters. Okay, a lot of climaxes. All right, draw 1 for that. Draw 1, very nice. We're going to use the Kanata effect here, send the Kanata from field to waiting room, discarding the climax that we don't want to keep in our hand, and grabbing the 3-2 Kanata back into our hand. And then we're going to play the Iroha to the center slot. Now, we can do the climax combo again. This time, we're probably going to change first because we want to just do as much damage as possible. Heal 1, and then use the Kanata's effect to salvage. This time, we are definitely going to salvage some and stock some. So the next turn, we're probably, like, if we survive this turn, then the next turn we probably need to go for the finishing turn, which means we do want a little bit of stock. Oh, actually, I forgot stock soul. Hang on. Stock soul first. All right. But yeah, the next turn we do want a little bit of stock so that we can actually play some finishers. So we don't want to add all the cards to our hand necessarily. So I think a really good thing to do for this is we want to add 2 cards to our hand and stock 2. If we add 2 cards to our hand and stock 2, we'll have 6 stock next turn, and we'll have a decent amount of hand so that we can kind of play whatever finishers we want. So the 2 cards I'm going to add to our hand is going to be a Botan, which is one of our finishing options. Unfortunately, we don't have any of the other finishers in waiting room, which is kind of weird. But we're going to add, the second card is going to be the Helmet Kanata, because this will help us get to one of our finishing options. And then for the 2 stock, it can just be anything you want. I just like stocking Aquas and Akis because we're never going to use their clock effects at level 3. So stock 2 and add these 2 to hand. And that way, once we attack 3 times, we'll be able to have 6 stock. And that gives us a lot more options for like a finishing turn. And we don't need that much hand for a finishing turn, generally speaking. Alright, let's attack here first. Trigger. We do want that flare for our finishing turn, that's for sure. Trigger on this one. And then the last attack, we want to attack with the Iroha last because it has the ability to, we can to look at the top 2 cards of our deck and rearrange it in any order. So it is any order, right? Yep, any order. So that way, if we see a climax, then we can put it second. Obviously, we don't see a climax here, so it doesn't really matter. We're just going to trigger this. But yeah, like generally speaking, we want to attack with it last so that if we see a climax, we can put it second, and so we can guarantee cancel with the climax. Alright, so now our opponent's probably level 3, and so they're going to go for the finishing turn here. And honestly though, okay, we have 5 climaxes here. If they go for a finisher, we're probably dead. So in an effort to try to make it look like that we do try, like potentially survive, let's go for like a not as strong of a finishing turn from our opponent. Okay, we definitely die if they do triple Marring because we only have 3 climaxes of our deck. But let's see if they do, let's do double Marring. Let's say they also didn't have a good game and give us a chance to potentially survive this. Let's say they go for the double Marring play. And so we have to cancel a number of burns along with the Marring swings. So first Marring burn is going to be for 2. We cancel the 2. And then the swing is going to be for 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. We take that one. Oof, a little hard. Second Marring burn is for 2. Go ahead, 1, 2, cancel on the 1. And the swing is going to be for 1, 2, 3. And we're probably going to cancel this one too, right? Yep, cancel here. And see, as you can see, if it was a triple Marring, we would be dead here. But instead, let's see if we can cancel off the fresh deck. Swing for 4 on the last Marring swing. Alright. So, yeah. Just to give us a fighting chance at potentially canceling and then showing off kind of how this endgame can do its stuff. Alright, the Cut of Destiny coming up. And refresh penalty. 2 more. 3. Oh, we cancel out the fresh deck. Let's go. Alright, that was very lucky. And we have some finishers in the waiting room. Not bad at all. So that's kind of exciting. We can potentially show off that as well. Let's put all our fuel to the waiting room. And let's try to see if we can do as much damage as we can our finishing turn. By the way, I do realize that I left the Iroha alive from the previous turn. That probably should not have happened. Oh well, it's okay. You don't have to be too precise when you're shadow testing. This is mainly just to get a feel of how the deck runs. And yeah, just to get a good feel of that. I think that's most important. It doesn't really matter if you're like making some mistakes, as long as you're getting a good idea of like what your options are at every level and stuff like that. Now here, unfortunately, the Botan's cost on play is to discard 2 to shuffle back 3 cards. And honestly, we don't really have that many cards in our hand, so it doesn't seem like a very good option. But that's kind of why we built up so much stock. Because we didn't have any finishers in our waiting room, it's actually better to build up stock so we can brainstorm here and potentially hit cards, and then that's how we get extra cards, and we can use the Helmet Kanata to actually go into our finishers. Now obviously we are at 3-6, which means I couldn't clock, but generally speaking, if you could clock, you would clock here because you're just trying to go for a game. So first brainstorm, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We miss on the first brainstorm. That's really unfortunate. But it's okay, we have a second brainstorm here, and after the second brainstorm, we still have 4 stock, which means we can play 2 level 3s. Which is kind of how I did the math here. So second brainstorm, come on, show me the money. That's 1 climax. Can we get a second one? Can we get a second one? No, we cannot. We draw 1, and it's a climax. Okay, well, that's not that bad. Because we can potentially use that climax to leverage, you know, get some extra soul on the final turn. All right, we're going to play this Kanata, and we're going to use the Kanata's effect, discarding the Suisei counter that we don't need, to get one of our 3-2 Kanatas from waiting room, just so that if we can't really get anything else going, we can at least play this 3-2 Kanata to heal. We're going to use the second effect of Kanata, send the Kanata and this 2-1 Kanata counter from our hand to our waiting room to salvage the 3-2 Suisei. Now I'm going for 3-2 Suisei in this specific instance because we definitely need hand. It's either the Suisei or the Kali, and honestly, I kind of want to see if we can draw into something good off the top here. So we're going to play the Suisei. Suisei is one of our only finishers that does get a second card into our hand. So we're going to go ahead and draw 1 card and get 2 key power. Miracle draw! It's a Luna. That doesn't really do much, unfortunately. Okay, well, but at least because of the draw, we actually have enough cards to play this, play the Bolton, use the Bolton's effect, discarding 2 cards to shuffle 3 cards back into our opponent's deck, and we still have enough to play the climax if we want to give that extra soul to our characters. So that's where kind of the Suisei is like that difference maker. Being able to draw 1 card gives us enough hand to be able to do something like this. Obviously, besides the Suisei and the Bolton, we also had access to the Calliope. So if we didn't want to play the climax, for example, our opponent's already really close to death, then the Kali is probably a better option. We could have salvaged that instead of the Suisei. We did have the Matsuri, although we did not have enough stock to go for the free fresh, or not the free fresh, the stock swap. And we also did have the flare because if you remember, I purposefully triggered this flare on the previous turn using the Iroha. The Iroha rearranged 2, and I put the flare on top to trigger it into my stock, so that if we wanted to get the flare instead of the Bolton, we could have, if we wanted to get the flare instead of the Suisei, we could have played something that costed like a stock, and then the flare would have been paid out, and then we could have used the Helmet Kanata to grab the flare from our waiting room instead of the Suisei. So as you can see, even in this really rushed and kind of scuffed game, we were still able to do basically everything we wanted to do with our deck. And for our finishing turn, we were able to access so many different options. You know, we had these 2 options, we also had these 2 in our waiting room, plus the flare. And there's still a few more finisher options in our deck that we didn't get to. But yeah, just the fact that you can brainstorm 5 and like mill a lot of these options out is like really good. Like our deck is really small right now. It's like what, like 10 cards. So like, yeah, if we had like a little bit better of a game, we could have probably like either brainstorm another time to mill more or something else so that we can access all our finishing options. All right, so that's this episode of Play by Play. Hopefully that was informative, just seeing kind of how I played that game and my decision making process at every level. Even though we did get pretty screwed with our Aquas and we just took a lot of damage early on, I think this deck was still able to stabilize and do a lot in the basically 4 to 5 turns that we were given. And yeah, I just think being able to have the stock soul and also trigger, like we did trigger this climax a lot, and although it looks bad in shadow play and actual real life situations, if your opponent does take one of these super large swings, that does swing the favor back in your direction. It's a pretty big swing, so very exciting. Alright, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or other feedback, please leave it in the comment section below. Be sure to like, subscribe, go share with other people, and get them to try this deck. I think this deck is really fun. Yeah, I hope more people get to try out just how much fun it is to play Weiss. Very easy deck to get into. Yeah, that's it for this time. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.